back with another edition of Disaster Survival Magazine's Weekly Radio. I am your host, Vincent Von Doom.
It's Sunday night. A busy work week is just around the corner. Then, suddenly, your lights won't turn on. Your phone stops working. Are you ready for what tomorrow could bring? Come to the Atlanta Preparedness Expo. Learn about solar power, communications, emergency water, long-term food storage, survival kits, bug-out bags, concealed carry, grab-and-go medical kits, suture classes, experts on-site at the Atlanta Preparedness Expo. April 23rd and 24th, Cobb Galleria Center, Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, I'm on the line with Future Danger 6. He is the editor of FutureDanger.com. Their tagline is relentlessly pursuing news for the prepared. Future Danger 6, are you there?
I'm here, Vincent. Thank you for having me.
Hey, mind if I call you Future Dan?
Fine, go right ahead.
All right, so I'm really excited. You've got a really great site. What would you call it exactly? Because it's so new, I don't even know how to properly label it.
One way you could call it, Vincent, is a news radar. So what we're trying to do is being a leading source of breaking news for the preparedness community. And to do that, we decided to try to bring news into one place, a news radar, so to speak, to allow people who are concerned to be able to go and check the status of many situations that people typically prepare for.
Awesome. So it's not like your regular regurgitated news site. There's so many websites out there like that. You have heat maps, and you prioritize stories according to the different threat levels or how popular or how trending it is. I'm still trying to understand it myself. This is really complicated stuff, but you put it all into one nice package on your website.
Well, let me try to help you understand. So there's a lot of news aggregation sites out there, and a lot of it's automated these days. Yahoo News. There used to be a tool called Google Reader. Those are aggregators, and the big corporations are interested in trying to get artificial intelligence that will feed news to consumers that they think that those consumers want to see. Future Danger is not aggregating. We're doing curation, and there's a difference. There's a human being behind it. Every link you find on the heat map dashboard, which is what we call our homepage, is chosen by our staff, human beings, who are making the discovery of that piece of news, and we're placing it into a context that we are attempting to help people understand. It's not an RSS feed. It's not an automated aggregator. It's a curation site.
Okay, and it's focused toward survivalists and preppers and people who are looking to make decisions as far as their next plan or maybe even relocating in the event of a disaster.
Exactly. So the people who benefit from the news of this unique website are among the growing movement of people you just spoke about, Americans who are actively preparing for emergencies. Now, there may be others that are interested in seeing the dynamic of how the news plays together in a lot of areas that concern regular Americans, and we welcome them. But really what we're focused on is people who have made the decision that on short notice there can be trouble. On short notice, they have to take action. They've already done preparations. The original idea of the website came to us because we were seeing that it's really hard to put together a picture, a single picture of how bad things are. You can hear one scary report on the radio and check out the internet when you get home and see a few others, and nothing more comes of it, and then the next day you're off to your life again. Even if you're in the prepared community, you may be just hearing the news, bits and pieces, and it causes you to think, well, I just need to be prepared. Well, our website is designed to bring the full picture to anyone who wants it at 24/7, 365. Click on, take a look at the homepage, and you'll see the status of all of these pieces of news as they evolve. They sometimes they flare up and people get concerned and a lot of news is generated. We filter that to what you need to know. And as stories and situations and crises start to cool off and die down, they'll be appropriately displayed on the homepage until that particular crisis has dissipated, in which case it'll go to an inactive status on the homepage. So whatever the hot pieces of news are that concern the preparedness community, it can be found. If things get to a level where people want to start to take action, start to finish their preps, start to think about strategic relocation, if they belong in retreat groups and need to communicate, there's the information they need to start making those decisions is what we are hoping to provide.
This is great, Dan. This is exactly what we needed. I'm on your site right now, futuredanger.com, and this is exactly what I've been looking for. I mean, I could spend all day surfing the web, looking for news stories, and I'm sure a lot of people do the same thing I do, where they'll go to all these different websites, before they get an idea of what's really going on. Like your mainstream websites, you go to the front page and they'll maybe have one headline that's interesting to you. The other thing is like sports, entertainment. I really don't care for any of that stuff. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of what really affects me and my family's life. And all that time spent searching the web, I could have, that's all wasted time. I could have used that time helping prepare my family, maybe making more money, getting my preps in order. And I was doing that for years, just sitting at my computer every day, looking for stories. After a while, I started finding sites like Drudge Report, and they were getting better. They were narrowing it down for me, but it still wasn't the preparedness and survival focused news stories that I wanted to read about. And that's exactly what you have, but you take it one step further. You've got all these color-coded boxes with all the recent stories, and the color-coded is the different can you explain that a little more to some of the listeners?
Right, yeah. We're doing something different. So instead of just laying out links in some random order that might be close to the target, in the ballpark to the news that this community, the preparedness community, is interested in, we're essentially categorizing it and classifying it. So how did we do this? We took a look for a while at the typical reasons people prep. One of the inspirations of this website was the survival shows and the American Prepper series. And if you remember from that series, they would always start off the show with the particular family that was involved or individual and what were they preparing for, right? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And each episode they'd have something that particular prepper was concerned about. And it caused us at Future Danger to think there's a lot of different things people are getting ready for. And there's a lot of different things that people are convinced that they need to be ready for. But what if you took all of those and brought them into one place? So when you come to Future Danger and to the homepage, which we call a heat map dashboard, it's a dashboard. Like when you're driving your car and you can see various gauges and the various conditions of your vehicle, you need a dashboard to operate a vehicle. Well, you need a dashboard of information to operate a prepared family, a prepared group. So that's the idea. Each object you see on the homepage is what we call a bundle. And at the top of the bundle is the indicator, indicating trouble, indicating the things that you're on the watch for. You come into our website now, we got a system of nearly 500 indicators. Some of them, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single American who wouldn't agree that if it became true, that indicator got to the point where it was fully realized, Vincent, that, things are bad. And then there's going to be others that you may not be concerned about. That's not why you prep. And the spirit of the website is to honor all indicators that could become true. Some are a lot closer to conventional thinking. Some of them might be a little bit more on the alternative edge of things. But nevertheless, there are people that are concerned about them. So when you come to the homepage, you see along the top of these bundles the indicator. The links of news below them are the evidence of the indicator. So it's sort of like an if-then statement, a classical logical statement. If these pieces of news are true, and we always make that disclaimer, Vincent, that you got to check the sources, click on the links, visit the news sources, and decide for yourself how they're reporting. We post news that we feel our readers should be aware of, but they need to do their due diligence. When they see these pieces of evidence, they can judge whether that indicator is getting closer to its full realization. And part of the way we help people do that is we color code. It's a traditional 5-level color-coded scheme. It goes like similar government systems that have been present in America for about 15 years. The Department of Homeland Security had a color-coded scheme of 5 levels that they did away with. I think they just brought back a 3-level scheme. Nevertheless, our scheme runs from blue at the lowest level, which means there's no news. That indicator's not liable to be occurring right now. We find no evidence of it. You can actually look at our website and look at the blue indicators and thank God that indeed those things aren't happening right now. And as pieces of news emerge and our staff is watching the news wires, we're combing the internet, we're doing the discovery and the filtering for our audience. We assign it to an indicator bundle, and we give it a grade that activates it. Lowest level is green. What that'll tell you is there's evidence of this indicator at a low level, at an early level. You should be aware of it, but it's not probably time to take action. The yellow, level 2, is hard evidence that this is occurring, and probably more information is available. It's starting to become a news story. You should take heed. The orange, or 3rd level, is concrete evidence that it is occurring, and it is relatively serious. One piece of evidence under an orange bundle might be something that you'll remember for weeks and months, if not years, as I remember when that happened. It was not good. Move that up to the red level, and you have the beginnings of information that may cause you to change your current strategy in your preparations. And then there's a final level, which we haven't used yet. We launched about 90 days ago, and let's just pray to God that we don't have to use it, but that is when an indicator becomes fully realized. It is happening. Now, we have a lot of indicators. Like I said earlier, about 500 of them. So when you come to the website, one red indicator, one activated indicator that's red, is pretty common. It's happening a lot these days. 2 or 3, in fact, simultaneously has been happening quite frequently. But let's just say if you come to this website and there is a lot of red, and you ever see the final black indicator with red font, or more than one of those, you can be assured that shit's hit the fan. Pardon my French.
Yeah, that That is awesome, man. I'm on your site right now, and I see, this is 1, 2, 3. I see about 4 different colors. I see one red one that you were just talking about. Then I see about, what is it, like 4 orange, and the rest I see a lot of yellow. I see some green, and then all the way at the bottom of the page, I see a bunch of blue. So there is one red one, which is it says foreign invasion officially invited, and underneath that looks like you have 3 news stories about that.
Right. Yeah. Today the news came out that the president intends to expand refugee admissions to the United States. Yesterday there was news that illegal immigration by family units has surged almost 40%. And then finally, late this afternoon, there's further news coming out that Central Americans are surging across the border, and it's beginning to look like the crisis we had in 2014. You put those 3 pieces of information together, and you put together the fact that the current powers that be do very little to discourage this, shall we say, that we could have another crisis like they had in 2014. So someone who's preparing and is not necessarily interested in the political aspects of this might ask themselves, well, why does that matter, right? That if that matters, it might take decades to matter, right? That sounds like a political issue. Well, maybe so. But what happens if 2 or 3 of these other indicators that are related start to heat up? A lot of the fear is that a significant event in Central America, like a pandemic, could break out, forcing very large amounts of people to start fleeing the area. It would be impossible to think that the vectors coming from the disease wouldn't travel into the United States as well. So, like I said earlier, Vincent, one indicator by itself is essentially a news story that's evolving, and you may or may not consider it relevant to your preps. 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 of these heating up at the same time will cause people to think, I better take heed, that things are essentially getting towards the direction of coming apart.
Yeah. I'm going to set your site to my my homepage. Yeah, you just saved me so much time. You saved me and the average guy, I don't know how many hours of needlessly searching the web for the information we need to get. I mean, I start every day with my cup of coffee. First thing I do is I jump right on the computer. I go to my different websites that I like to go to each morning. I don't have to do any of that now. You've got it all right here. I can just click on my homepage, which will be Future Danger. I can just read all of it on the dashboard, and then I can get back to work. I don't have to waste 2 hours now. You just saved me 2 hours a day.
And I may have saved you a lot more time than that. I appreciate that. Thank you. The intent for people that are especially for folks that are checking it out on a desktop version. If you come on in and you use your mouse wheel and you scroll out, hold the control button out and scroll out. Scroll out far enough that you don't even have the ability really to read the font, Vincent, and just glance at the colors and look at their locations, because there's 4 columns on the homepage, on the heat map dashboard, and they are categories of news. You don't even necessarily have to read to know where are we right now. Have things broken out that are concerning enough that I should dedicate more time to reading the news. When you see a lot of reds and oranges, and especially if you see them spread across all 4 columns, that's when perhaps, zoom on in and start reading what the headlines are. If you're comfortable enough that the headlines are repetitive news, because, sometimes, for example, the stock market for the last 10 days has had some pretty down days, some triple-digit losses, and it's happening every day. It's pretty much a slow motion stock market crash in this month of January 2016, Vincent. You'll see those headlines probably continue for the rest of this month. You can gather, what I'm trying to say is you can gather the situation right when you get there with your cup of coffee, and if you don't have time to dig in, take a glance and move on with your life and come back and visit. Check it out throughout the day. If you hear one report on the radio that causes you concern, come to Future Danger, because we're going to already have it covered, and we're going to already put it into context with what else is happening.
I'm going to. And the 4 columns, is that arranged in any way? Like, is the first column the most important news, or it's just all spread out on the dashboard so the reader can decide and make sense of which stories he wants to read?
So the columns from left and right don't have anything to do with importance. They are mega categories in news. We basically needed to have a way to put 4 columns onto a website. They are categories of news. They essentially break down like this. The left column is about civics, political affairs in terms of the United States Constitution and how she's doing, and the laws of the land and the enforcement of those laws, decisions in courts. So for people that are in the preparedness community who also identify with the Patriot or Liberty movement, these are the places where those pieces of news, especially when one of our indicators is the keeping and bearing of arms has been infringed. It's been pretty common lately. News stories about what exactly is happening in those areas you'll find in that column. Every piece of the Bill of Rights has its own indicator, every clause. And when we find court decisions, when we find state and local governments and the federal government doing things that are clearly not in alignment with the Constitution, you'll find it there. The second column from the left is security, domestic and international. The recent events in Oregon with the militias are fully covered in that category, as well as certain international situations which are of concern to Future Danger. I'll give you a couple. War with Russia starts. I'm a product of growing up in the 1980s and was witness to the end of the Cold War, and I thought it was over. But facing off with the successor to the Soviet Union, the current Russia, the Russian Federation, has recently, in the last 60 days, we've seen some things happening that we haven't seen in a long time. War with China could start. You can't rule it out. We cover news in that area. The Korean Peninsula today is at a high state of alert. I believe, if I'm not incorrect, the South Koreans fired a North Korean drone across the demilitarized zone. So you'll get international and national news that has to do with serious business. People are starting to actually fight. The third column from the right is essentially economics, everything having to do with our economy and the welfare of people on a resource level. And the furthest column, the column to the far right, or the fourth column, is everything else. It includes natural disasters. It includes plagues and epidemics, pandemics. It includes other issues that just don't really fit into the first 3 columns. So there's a map underneath this website, this dashboard. And if you scroll in and scroll out and take a look at the colors, don't worry about reading. Just take a look at the temperature of the news. You'll see where things are hot or not. We launched on October 8th. We haven't had a situation yet where all 4 columns are stacked up with very heated news. If that were to occur, you'd be in one of those situations where, let's just say the preparedness movement might get a little bit bigger really fast.
Yeah. Do the boxes move up or down, or do they just change color as far as threats?
This website's completely dynamic. Each of these objects, these indicators with their news, are floating up and down in their own column. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we did that. We developed some algorithms that are unique and new, and they combine several factors to get to a score so that the software will place that piece of news higher or lower. The primary driver of how high it ranks in its column is the grade that I and my staff give the indicator. So when we find a new headline and we post it into the bundle for the indicator, we give that indicator a grade. That's how you get the red, orange, yellow, green. As time goes by, new stories come up. We can't just let the hottest pieces of news stay at the top in terms of the grade we gave them, because there's other new pieces of news emerging. So if I come and add a new story tomorrow morning, it perhaps is a cooler piece of information, but it might sit a little bit higher because we want viewers to see that. It's because they're visiting often. They need to see the newest breaking news. And the third factor, Vincent, that's integrated into this website is user feedback. The more the stories are clicked and read, that's an indication to I and my staff that our audience is interested. They care about that particular set of events that's making that indicator hot. So we combine the recency of the news, the severity of the news as we assign it, and the interest of our audience in a proprietary algorithm that drives the news objects on the website up or down inside their columns.
I'm going to click on Free Press is Abridged. It's the orange button. All right, and it takes me to a page. Can you read it?
Sure, yeah. So when you click on the indicator title from the dashboard, you jump to another page that is basically a description of the indicator. So, Vincent, you clicked on Free Press is Abridged, straight out of our Constitution. What does this mean? It means that exactly what it says. There's been some news that's emerged that's indicative of spoken or published expressions have been limited by the government. You know, we've had the First Amendment going through the courts for over 200 years in this country, and there's a lot of jurisprudence surrounding it. But we cover each and every instance of this as we see it. We call it as we see it. And if the courts decide something different, then so be it. We've seen a lot lately where bold attempts to abridge the press's freedom have been coming out, and that's a hallmark of a dangerous state. So that's an indicator that if you were to have a time machine and went back to certain other countries in the 20th century and that were free and slid into tyranny, you would start to see pieces of news coming down the pike that would fit into this indicator bundle. On this page, you'll see when and where this has happened before. You'll see why this is dangerous. Now, free press abridged is being abridged. That's a pretty easy one. Most Americans understand that a free press is essential to a free republic. There'll be a credit for this indicator. In this case, it's our founding generation. This is a piece of the Bill of Rights. It's a clause from the First Amendment. And then you'll see external references. We put a number of articles up if you want to research more to understand. And then finally, there'll be the current events. Essentially, you'll see the links from the dashboard. They'll also be shown here so you can understand why, understand the current evidence of this indicator.
Okay, great. Now, just so I understand this correctly, the more someone clicks on this, the heat map will go up, or the more stuff in the news about this particular subject, this particular one will go up. as far as color and threat?
So we put headlines of news, attach them into an indicator bundle when we find them, right? And when we do that, we give the bundle a grade, and we may keep it at the same grade. We may upgrade it in certain cases if the news seems to have suppressed or alleviated the condition. We might downgrade it. So when the grade is entered, the bundle will be sorted within the column according to a score. But that score decays over time. And as it's decaying over time, newer pieces of news found in other bundles might outrank it, might achieve a higher spot. Now, combined with that, if one of these bundles has, let's say, 2 or 3 news story links, and our audience is clicking them, they're like, what's that about? I need to know. What did Future Danger find? I'm going to read that article. So you're jumping off to USA Today, or you're jumping off to InfoWars, or you're jumping off to it could be a video of someone from YouTube. We aren't necessarily linking to news. We're linking to any sources that are making breaking news and telling the world things that they need to know.
And you can track all that.
Yeah, our system will count the clicks and weigh it into the score. So if it's essentially, Vincent, what we've designed is a dashboard that's two-directional. We provide it to our audience as a view of situational awareness to the world and the events that they care about. But as they interact with the website and click those links, it becomes a dashboard back to us. It informs us on what our audience is especially caring about.
Okay, I mean, I don't want to sound stupid. It's just I've never seen anything like this before. You know, this is all new to me, and I'm usually up on all the latest stuff. So,
no need to apologize. It's a completely new website. It's being done in a completely different way.
What if I'm at work, right? I'm at my work computer at whatever company, and I'm not allowed to go on all these other different websites, right? But I got a smartphone, and I have Twitter linked up, and I can get Twitter alerts. Is this like hooked up through like Twitter and social media too? Like, can I get alerts through Twitter that are built into this? Or?
Absolutely. We have the Future Danger is on Twitter at symbol Future Danger 6. We operate that 24/7. Most critical pieces of news are tweeted with a link to the indicator on our homepage, and we tell you what that indicator is. So, for example, at about 5 minutes past 4 p.m. this afternoon, the Dow had finished at down 365 points, in correction territory alongside the NASDAQ and the S&P. That's a significant drop in one day, and it's been happening a lot. We found that piece of news at 4:10 p.m. It was posted and tweeted. And if you have an opportunity to click that link in the tweet, it'll jump you right to the heat map dashboard. And that's where we're a little bit different. Most people are going to post the link to that news story. That particular news story today came from Wall Street Journal. Our business is to share the news and to get people, drive people to see news that we think they need to know. But before that, we want you to come to the homepage to see the context, because the Dow dropping 365 is one thing. The fact that Russia and China are slowly cracking into the petrodollar, and we can get into what that means, because a lot of the audience, they might not particularly have heard of what a petrodollar is, but those two countries are trying to bring it down. And also the fact that crude oil prices are crashing and sales are surging at the U.S. Mint. 4 times the number of silver coins are being allocated right now. When you come to the heat map and you see that stock story, Dow down 365, but then you see the 4 or 5 other indicators nearby that are heating up, then you really start to understand the news. You have situational awareness that you can operate off of.
It's great that you mentioned that, because I got to the point where I was even going to overseas websites that were in other languages in other countries, and I would be hitting the Google Translate button. Like I would go to the Iranian website, I would go to the Russian main website, and I'd translate it, and I'd try to see what their news was saying, because we would be getting a story from one side, then you go to the other side, and it's a whole different story. So I was trying to get both sides of the story, then make my own educated decision on what was really going on in the world.
Well, with all due credit to the guys who are running their outfit with this name, I'll tell you something that I've told people recently. People that are, shall we say, not looking at the news and not particularly caring about the events of the world right now. People that obviously aren't preparing, the proverbial future members of the Golden Horde. I told them that there is a worldwide information war between almost every citizenry and their governments, and between nearly all the governments of the world, and it's constantly going on. So when you're at a Ukrainian website looking at what has happened in the Donbass, and then you jump over to a Russian website, and then you check out Turkey and Iran and Israel and European NATO countries' versions of events in Syria, you'll get a picture that is dramatically different. We at Future Danger try to cut through that noise, but we will tell you, first and foremost, we're an American website run by Americans, and we're looking at it from that perspective. No, we don't take everything that's coming out of the mainstream press that's necessarily positive spin for our current government or any future government. We don't take it. We take it all with a grain of salt. But we are an American website, and are fully aware that a lot of adversaries out overseas, they're fighting the info war pretty well right now.
Yeah, we're definitely in a full-fledged cyber war, information war. I always believed, even since I was a kid, that I kind of thought World War III would be fought in cyberspace.
I think it's underway right now.
Yeah.
I think it has been for decades, or at least the last decade. The Russians call it hybrid war now, and they've actually jumped out in front of everybody in how to integrate the information, the propaganda, with the cyber and with actual military force, and you see headlines on a regular basis showing them, in my opinion, and again, I'm on our side, but they're doing it well.
Yeah. So your staff is just covering the military, political, diplomatic side, financial. They're not doing anything that doesn't directly relate to someone's survival.
So we have a new feature coming up. It'll be placed into column 1, and it's going to be called the Prepping Advisory. And the Prepping Advisory bundle, it's going to be a bird of a different feather. It won't operate like all the other indicators. It's just a place on the website to inform the preparedness community of news and posts and information that we feel is they need to be aware of. It could be a blog post or a video from someone in the community, such as Disaster Survival Magazine's latest edition or article, or it could be types of news that people would use to plan their economics of their prepping. For example, if we find that certain prices of ammunition have leapt up or dropped, if we find that prices of food upstream, at the agricultural producer level, is looking like it's going to have impacts on costs. And if you're, trying to put away a certain amount of food every month, you may want to wait because prices are coming down. You may want to, accelerate, because they're not. So there will be a place that's dedicated to this community with news that they can use at a, let's say they use that news at a tactical level, whereas the remainder of the website is operational and strategic. It's the big picture of the world they live in.
So this is what the Wall Street Journal is to the stockbroker, as what Future Danger is to the prepper survivalist.
Well, I think that might be on the right track, but then when you have one paper with one editorial board, with one political viewpoint, you may not be getting the complete picture.
That's true. That's definitely true.
At Future Danger, we're curating news from many sources. I'm going to link to the New York Times, and I'm going to link to the Wall Street Journal, and I'm going to link to Natural News, and I'm going to link to Russia Today, and I'm going to link to a website in Pakistan if they're reporting news in Pakistan that's important to us. And that's where I said earlier, Vincent, when I was speaking to you about our users have to do their due diligence, click the link, and decide, do I believe the source? We're finding sources. We're throwing out sources that we know are just not reliable. But if they make the cut and they have something to say that might be of interest, we're agnostic. We're not pushing a political point of view. That being said, our agenda is to keep people ready to move and survive. And if this news helps them to do that, beyond that, the only other political motive you may see on the site is we're firm believers in the United States Constitution as written.
Excellent. That's the way it should be. It seems like everyone else out there these days, they're either affiliated with a political party and they're biased in that way, or they have a special interest, or they're religious. And whenever I don't like to go to those types of sites because it's like skewed. It's too one-sided. You know, I want this the whole picture. You know what I'm saying?
I do, and piggyback off of that, Vincent. The part of what we hope to achieve is probably best explained from an engineering concept, where engineers are looking at data and there's signal and there's noise. And it's always a challenge to decide what is the signal and what is the noise. That's where, bringing it full circle to where we began, we're not aggregating stuff. We're not throwing out red chunks of political meat. You're not going to see information on this website about political campaigns or candidates unless, of course, something seriously dangerous happened with one of them. For example, an assassination attempt, or a convention was riots at a convention. Those have greater implications. But the day-to-day in and out of who said what in campaigns, it's not what this website is for. That, to us, is noise. People are obsessed with it, in our opinion. We watch Twitter. For a lot of our information, we're finding news, but it is inundated with material that obviously these candidates need to campaign, and they need to be elected, and they need to tell people what they're for.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, do I need to finish my preps and prepare to move out of my suburban house because things are getting a little bit dangerous, nothing being said in the campaign is going to matter. It's going to matter the hard, cold facts of actual news that we provide as evidence against an indicator.
Well, what I see on your site right now that reminds me of this is I see dollar dumped, 13 central banks now trading Chinese yen, and then right above that I see largest mint sales recorded. Sales surge after U.S. mint quadruple silver coins. What that tells me is people are losing faith in the dollar, and they're trying to buy up as much gold and silver as they can as far as their preps go. And that's something I have been looking into a lot lately, is buying up as much gold, silver, ammunition, stocking up on as much food as I can get. So I can see how this site directly relates and gives you a quick snapshot of exactly how and what you should be prepping for. And
that's the intent. That's the intent. Now, in this particular case, there's only one piece of news against each of those indicators. One of them we're grading as green, the lowest level of active. One of them's yellow. When you see 2, 3, 4 pieces of data coming into these indicators, and they're not just repetitions of the same story. They're related but different, and we start grading them into the oranges and the reds. That's where you start to see a situation that you may want to accelerate those preps.
Yeah. Wow. This is excellent.
Now, what we don't want to do is come off and lead people to believe that the entire website's dedicated to instilling fear in people. And I don't think your audience...
I don't see any of that here.
Yeah, well, that's because you and your audience and the market we're trying to serve has already made decisions that they're going to be sober and rational and be prepared for their survival, because they already are dedicated to the idea bad things can happen. They've happened throughout history. They're liable to happen to any country. The United States isn't immune. But there are people that will come to this website and they'll freak out. And it's sort of an ostrich syndrome. They won't come back because, boy, they didn't like what they saw. And I think that really reflects on they never dedicated to the idea of being prepared for this. So we are a website designed for people who already have a serious mind about how these events could change their lives.
Okay. Dan, how did you tell me more about the where, when, and how? Why did you decide to come up with this? When? Tell us a little more about it. So,
as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of American preppers, doomsday preppers. I'm a big fan of Doomsday Preppers, the show. Watched it. Wasn't really into the preparing myself, people around me for those events, but I watched the shows because I was curious. And each episode they would lead off with, the particular person was preparing, and it always be for something different, right? Could be, ranging from a pole shift to martial law. Who knows what motivated that person? But it began to occur to me that this community, there's lots of reasons to prepare. And so I started to catalog them. Started to say, well, people are concerned about that. Let me jot that down. And then that list of things that people are concerned about grew, and it grew. And now you'll see it at futuredanger.com. Over 500 discrete indicators, separate, unique indicators. Some of them highly related to each other. Some of them completely unique and separated from each other. But nevertheless, all are events, preconditions that if they become fully true, if evidence comes out to support them in their fullest degree, no one can argue it wouldn't change all of our lives. And so we made a decision to invest and to build the technology to present a heat map dashboard, an entirely new concept for a website, to essentially alert people to their current state of affairs. People on our staff have backgrounds in the military and intelligence communities, and I can assure you that in those communities for a long time, software has been developed. They are indeed situational awareness dashboards. For example, if you were to walk into the situation room of any of our major theater commands, there are dozens of watch officers standing 24/7, 365, taking in information from throughout the entire federal government as well as our allies, taking in information. There are people in Tampa, Florida, in the Central Command headquarters, watching everything going on in the Middle East that we can know about all the time. There's nothing like that for you and your audience, Vincent. There's nothing like that for average Americans to see. Now, are we going to be able to get the classified information? No, we're not going to be a classified website. We're not going to be a subscription-based website either. We're going to be our philosophy is to be a publicly available utility for all Americans who care to find out what time it is. It's a situational awareness dashboard to replicate some of the tools that governments, corporations, and wealthy private individuals have already invested in for they have their interests, we have ours. Now we have a tool for us.
Awesome. I'm so glad I ran into you, because this saves me so much time. I mean, even when I'm researching stories for the magazine, I can just go right to your website.
Yeah, absolutely. There ought to be a lot of food for thought and a lot of fodder for any members of your audience who are also out there in the community trying to put two and two together and tell their audiences why they should prepare. Part of what's neat about curating links from different sources, Vincent, is you get a relationship that, like I said earlier, it won't be found in one paper. You juxtaposition news. You put A and B and C next to each other, and there's a new story that emerges that you wouldn't have gotten from drilling down into one hole at a time. You can come to this website and see those new relationships and new stories, and it might cause people to think about new topics to communicate to their audience.
Yeah, that's what I really like about it. I have one more question, though. Can we go over what the report button and the blue inactive indicators do? I'm still a little not clear on that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, there's a scoring system that drives bundles when they're activated. In other words, they have evidence. There's news to place against them. They rise to the top. Heat rises, Vincent. That's the way to think about it. Heat rises, and this is a heat map. So when the indicators have news and they're starting to heat up, they're going to go up to the top of the dashboard on our homepage. If there's no news and they're cool, they're blue, and they cool off, and they sink down, and they sit all the way down, so you can take your mouse wheel and scroll a good long ways all the way to the bottom, and they're all blank, and they're all blue, because those things aren't happening right now, thank God. But next to each of those indicator titles is a report button. And what we did was we opened up an avenue where if any member of our audience says, hey, Future Danger's missing the boat, we know something they don't, they need to know this right now, click that report button. Send it to us. We'll see it immediately.
So it's like a tip line almost. Okay.
It's a tip line, and you can send us a link to a news story that you think is indicative of the indicator. Or it could be that there is no other published news story. You just happen to be in downtown Chicago, and there was a protest nearby, and holy heck, they're smashing out windows and burning police cars. Report it. Send it to us. We'll create a separate page. We'll publish the news if no one else will.
Now, if you have if they have a report for a button that's not there, what do? They just email you?
Right. In the right side of the home page, we have a section tells you a few administrative things, so to speak, and you can always click on and email us at standingguard@futuredanger.com.
Great, man. This is really good stuff. You're going to save me so much time.
And one other feature of the website that's important always to remember is our advertisers. If you like what you see, click on them, please. Go and visit. We handpick our advertisers. There's no Google affiliation. We're not running ads that some computer algorithm thinks this particular audience might want to see. We hand select American companies that are selling products, sometimes services, but mostly products that help you prepare. So right now we have Battle Box survival and tactical gear advertising as our lead banner. We have water filtration companies, two-way radio experts are selling very good handheld radios, and on and on. We do not have advertisers that do not have a functionality for our audience, and that is the preparedness audience.
Cool. Oh, and I'm also very happy to announce that Future Danger is going to be appearing in Disaster Survival Magazine each issue, where you're going to be doing a 2-page, what is it, like a quick recap of some of the biggest, most important stories that have been featured on your site?
Absolutely, Vincent. We're going to recap the hottest indicators in the previous period of time and pick about 6 or 8 of them that we saw stay hot throughout the period. We're going to tell you how those sets of circumstances heated up, what they are at the time we publish in Disaster Survival Magazine, and we're going to. It always gets dangerous when you try to prognosticate and predict what's coming down the pike. But we're beginning to see patterns in news. The stock market got crazy in August, and it settled. Now we're back to crazy. They come in about 90-day spurts, some of these indicators. When they all cycle up at the same time, people are going to want to know. And that section of Disaster Survival Magazine will be the Future Danger Report, where we'll recap where we have been, where we are, and where we think we might be going.
Awesome. And a lot of that stuff makes good talk radio, too. You know, one night we could have viewers call in on some of the main topics.
I certainly welcome doing that. Be happy to.
Awesome. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, everyone, that's futuredanger.com. And you got to go to the site. I can't even explain it in words. You got to go check it out. That's futuredanger.com. All right, Dan, until next time.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
All right, thank you.